Hello! Today we are going to be talking winter-themed books. Instead of doing Christmas books, I wanted to do a book list consisting of books that are surrounding the winter season. So these are going to be books that either have lots of snow or it could be a winter somewhere where they have no snow, but it's still winter. That being said, let's just get right into the video. The first book I wanted to mention was Moon of the Crusted Snow. So this is a post-apocalyptic novel that is set in a Northern Ontario First Nation as it goes through an awful winter and a major blackout. It goes through the challenges that come with the blackout, the power outages, and the dwindling of resources that they can supply for the community. You'll definitely want to put on a sweater for this, and there's quite a big twist towards the end that I was not expecting. One of my fears living somewhere that has snow every winter is, what if the power goes out and you have no firewood and you could potentially freeze to death? That's something that always scares me. So this book definitely goes through that type of scenario, and it's a bit scary. The next book is Migrations, and I loved this book. This is the type of read for those adventure seekers. This story is about Franny, who is tracking these birds, and they're about to go extinct. So she's in Greenland because she wants to track these birds all the way to Antarctica, where it's said that they won't survive and it will be their last flight until extinction. But she believes that they will not go extinct, and she wants to see how they could possibly survive and ways to implement that into the future to keep the species alive. But in order to go to Antarctica to follow these birds, she has to join a fishing boat and convince them to let her stay and continue on to Antarctica in exchange for being able to help them get more fish, because she knows the birds' rotation and where they go for fish. You'll also get dual timelines as well, which make this book even more interesting. The next book is Good Morning, Midnight by Lily Brooks Dalton. And this is a post-apocalyptic novel that follows an astronomer that's stuck on the Arctic. The astronomer may be the last human on Earth, and an astronaut that's returning from a deep space mission, and you get to see the lives of both of them and how they're so different but they are so similar at the same time. And there's also a movie based off of this book, so once you read it, you can also watch the film. Moving on into another STEM novel, we have Below Zero by Ali Hazelwood. This book is about Hannah, who is a NASA aerospace engineer, and she finds herself injured and stranded at the remote Arctic research station. And the only person willing to undertake the hazardous rescue mission is her longtime rival, Ian, who happens to be a very hot guy. If you're looking for romance that has a frigid atmosphere, then you've come to the right place, and Ali Hazelwood just has the best STEMinist novels ever, and I love her books. So read any of her novels. I would always tell you to read any and all of her novels, but especially this one for the winter season. The next book is A Week in Winter by Maeve Binchy, and if you've ever seen White Lotus, or you're a fan of that show, or if you're a fan of a plot that is reminiscent to that show, then you will definitely want to read this book. I thought this book was so entertaining. This is a story that's set in the fictional town called Stonybridge in Ireland. It delves into the unique story of each individual that stays at this inn during 1 week, and how all of those stories interconnect because they're all at the same place. You have, an actor that's there hiding out. You have a couple that's gone through something traumatic. You have someone that goes missing, and there's literally just so many different unique stories that end up combining towards the end. And as you continue reading through each story, you're like, oh, they were there for that, and this happened because they were there, sort of thing. But I will say that this is not going to have a snowy atmosphere, but it is going to be set in the winter season. It's going to be a warmer winter. The next book is One by One by Ruth Ware, and this is a psychological thriller. I feel like I've talked about this one quite a bit in the past, but here we are talking about it again. So this story is set in the French Alps, and it's about a corporate retreat that takes place at a ski lodge, and they end up getting snowed in by a huge avalanche and losing connection with the outside world because of it. And while they have temporarily lost connection, people start dying off one by one. I don't know why I just held up 2 fingers. Anyways, and you can see from the book cover right here that it's a winter read. I mean, look at this cover. You see it and you feel cold. Moving on into another thriller, we have Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. This is such a good one. It is mind-bending. This story is about a couple that is having marriage issues, and they end up winning a getaway to the Scottish Highlands during winter time. So they end up going with the intention of either fixing their marriage or separating by the time the getaway ends. And after they arrive, things start getting really weird. Weird things start happening. Amelia, the wife, ends up questioning whether this was some sort of setup. And as they're there, a sequence of unsettling events starts to unfold, and they are getting snowed in and isolated in the process. I've got quite a few thrillers for you, so we're just gonna kind of stay on the track of thrillers. The next book is 5 Total Strangers by Natalie D. Richards. So this book is about Mira, who's heading home for the holidays, and when she gets into the airport, she realizes her connecting flight is canceled due to a blizzard, but they could technically drive to the next airport so she could get to her flight in time. So her seatmate on the airplane, they end up saying like, hey, we're getting a rental car, we're driving to the other airport so everyone can get to their connecting flights. You want to come with us? And she's like, oh, sure. As she's in the car, she starts to realize, wait, none of these people know each other. They're just all random people that were on the plane together that decided to get a rental car and drive to the next airport during a snowstorm. She starts getting really freaked out, and as they're heading to this airport, weird things start happening in the car. Things go missing. She keeps seeing this reoccurring man appear at different stops, almost like she's being stalked. This book was a thrill. It is YA, but the whole concept of being in a car with a bunch of strangers and things happening and you don't know who the person is that's sitting next to you, I love that concept. That concept alone really makes it for me. I have quite a few more books to mention, but before I move any further into the video, I wanted to take a second to introduce today's sponsor, Ecosusi. I feel like everyone knows Ecosusi by now, but in case you don't, let me tell you a little bit about this brand. Ecosusi is a female-led animal and eco-friendly brand. Ecosusi never uses real leather or any other animal-based materials in their products or design. Not only are their items cute, eco, and animal-friendly, but they also have an ethical approach to the way that their items are produced. I feel like they're designed to put books in and they fit books, which is perfect for me. The bags I have are the Victor Vintage Messenger Crossbody bag. This is my bag for when I want to dress a bit more edgy. It has those silver accents on there with the buckles. I could pair it with a leather jacket, my Stomper combat boots, or I could even pair it with a cute dress. My other bag is the Women's Perforated Messenger bag, and I love this one because it matches the cottagecore dark academia aesthetic, and it also works really well within the fantasy world. So when I go to Ren fairs, this is the go-to bag that I bring if I want to put on my elf ears, you know, I'm wearing this one. And the last bag I have by them is the Infinity Love Quilted Shoulder Bag. And this is my classy bag for all of my elegant looks, especially with the chain accent. That's something that you will always see in a timeless bag. If you want to check out the bags I just mentioned or any of their other styles, I will be sure to link all of the products along with their website below in the description box. And thank you so much to Ecosusi for sponsoring today's video, and let's continue on with the books. The next book is Winter Prey by John Sandford, and this is a crime thriller. This one's interesting. This book is about Lucas Davenport, who is a law enforcement officer, and he's investigating a series of murders that have taken place during the winter time in Minnesota. What makes this specific book so interesting, though, is the fact that you not only read from Lucas's point of view, but you also read from the killer's point of view without actually knowing who the killer is. You read during his crimes and after his crimes when he's trying not to get caught, and you still don't know who it is. He's just called, I'm pretty sure he's called the Iceman. So the whole time you're trying to figure out who he is from the detective's point of view, while also remembering all the stuff you just read when you were in the killer's head. But I will say it's not for the faint of heart. If you don't want to read from that sort of perspective, this book might not be for you. The next book is The Sanatorium by Sarah Pierce. This book takes place in the Swiss Alps at a sanatorium that is now turned luxury hotel. Love to see it. This story follows Elin, who's a detective on leave, and she gets invited to the hotel by her brother who's engaged and he's throwing a party. So she has no excuse not to go, and she decides, okay, yeah, let's do it, let's go. However, after she arrives, there ends up being this huge snowstorm that traps all the guests, and a body ends up being discovered on the property. So she gets drawn into the investigation because authorities cannot reach them. A lot of these winter themed books that are thriller related always involve being snowed in during winter, it's just the perfect chilling atmosphere. The next book, which is a new release, is Back in a Spell by Lana Harper. This story is about Nynaeve Blackmore, who is a practical witch, and she's brokenhearted, but she's finally deciding, I'm gonna get myself back out there and I'm gonna go on a date. So she goes on a date with this guy right off the bat. It's so awkward. They are not compatible at all. She's planning on never seeing him again. And it gets even worse when he finds out her family is the one trying to buy out his family business. Well, they end up going their separate ways, but are forced back into each other's lives because he discovers he has magical powers now. And magical powers that are passed on to a mortal can only develop due to a soulmate connection, and they're confused because they don't like each other. So because of this, they are forced together, and the rest is history. And this book takes place over wintertime, and it also goes a little bit into Yule. The next book is Crave by Tracy Wolff. I don't know if you guys know this book. You might, because it's almost Twilight, but slightly different, but not much different. In fact, when I read Crave, I was shocked by the fact of how similar it was to Twilight, in my opinion, but I don't know. If you've read it, let me know what you think. So this book is about Grace, who ends up enrolling in this academy called Katmere Academy, located in Alaska after her parents' death. And she moves from San Diego to Alaska. So you go from the nicest weather in North America to snow. In this book, you're gonna get vampires, dragons, and an array of other magical, mysterious things. Although it's not identical to Twilight by any means, you can tell just based off of the book cover what the author was going for and how Twilight probably impacted this book quite a bit. The next book we got is Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie. This is a classic. Everyone knows this book, but let's talk about it just a little bit. So this book is about 𝚌𝚘𝚖𝚎, who is investigating a murder that takes place on a train, and they end up getting snowed in and isolated on this train after they find out someone is dead, and he's trying to figure out who the killer is before they strike again while they're isolated in a snowstorm. There's also an incredible movie adaptation of this book that I couldn't recommend more, so definitely check it out after you give it a read. The next book is The Shining by Stephen King, and I actually haven't read this book, but I want to, and I wanted to put it on the list because I've seen the movie, so I know the book is similar. This is a psychological horror novel about a family that becomes the winter caretakers of a mountain lodge resort, and while they're there, the psychic abilities of their son start to reveal the past of this lodge. And in the process, the hotel is trying to claim the lives of the caretakers as well. This is also a classic film. So if you haven't seen the film, go watch the film and then read the book, or read the book and then watch the film. The next book is The Snow Child, and this is set in Alaska, and it's about a couple that can't have kids, and one day they decide to build a snow child, and the snow child ends up coming to life. I haven't read this one either. It's been on my TBR for so long and I still haven't read it, but it's probably going to be on my winter TBR just because I need to get it off my list. Like, what am I doing? But from what I've read, everyone says this is a tearjerker. You're going to be sad when you read this. It's very sad. But the whole winter setting is there. The next book is An Unwanted Guest by 𝚌𝚘𝚖𝚎. This is another trapped in a hotel during a snowstorm situation. I'm not kidding. This is really the premise of a lot of these books for some weird reason, or maybe that's just a common thriller narrative. This is a psychological thriller that is set in a hotel that ends up getting snowed in during a major snowstorm. And of course, while all the guests are there, a series of murders occur and everyone's trying to figure out who did what. So this book is very similar to One by One. If you like One by One and you've read that, then I would recommend picking up this one, or so on and so forth. It's just, you know, they go hand in hand and they're both the same vibe. The next book is Left Hand of Darkness, which is a science fiction classic. This book takes place on a frigid planet called Gethin, or Winter, because it's cold all the time. And this explores political and cultural dynamics of the planet Winter, where the species there is ambisexual, meaning they have no gender until it is time to procreate. The next book is Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo, and this is a popular book series slash TV show now that you can watch on Netflix. And the first book takes place starting in autumn and ending in winter, so you will get that wintry setting as you read. So this story is about 𝚌𝚘𝚜𝚎, who is an orphan that has untapped magic. And as she gets older, she discovers that she is actually much more powerful than she thinks, and she might be the key to saving their war-torn land of Ravka. This is a fantasy, and it starts in autumn and ends in winter, so you will get that winter setting as you continue to read. And overall, this is a fantastic series. Like the Grisha series, the Grishaverse is one of my absolute favorites, so couldn't recommend this series more. The next book is Winter by Ali Smith, and there are actually multiple different books that cover autumn, winter, summer in this series, and this one is just wintertime. So this follows a family that gets together for Christmas time, and it really dives into the themes of politics, immigration, and the effects that technology has on our society. So you'll get a lot of different things in this book, all while being set during the winter time. But keep in mind, winter in Cornwall is very gloomy with little to no snow. The next book is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. Any excuse to mention this book in a book video, I will do it. I love this book. But I wanted to mention this one specifically because there is a scene in this, there is a section in this book that takes place around winter time, and if you've read it, you know what I'm talking about. People describe this section of the book as being so chilling and so frigid that they felt cold reading it. And that's kind of what we're going for when I'm speaking of winter reads for the most part, unless it's in a place that isn't super cold. But in this case, it was, because it takes place in Vermont. So if you don't know what this book is about and you haven't read it yet, what are you waiting for? Why haven't you read it? Come on. This is a dark academia novel that is about Richard, who becomes involved with an eccentric group of students who is willing to give up everything, including his freedom, in order to maintain a value in their friend group. That's the short version of the story. I'm sure you've heard so much about it, but I cannot express in words how much I enjoyed this book and will continue to enjoy it for the rest of my existence. The next one that also has another hint of winter in it is The Three-Body Problem. So this is a science fiction novel, and it's about humanity coming into contact with an alien civilization. But the ways that they come into contact involve winter in a very interesting way, which I can't really give away too much without ruining the book, but I will say there are parts throughout this entire book that constantly just take you back to a wintry, cold planet. And because of that, I wanted to add it to the list. And not to mention, it's just a good book in general to read. There's a movie that's going to be coming out about it, and it's a very highly rated sci-fi book. So if you're a fan of sci-fi, you should read it, but it also has winter themes to it. The next book that also has hints of winter in it is Nightfall by Jake Halpern and Peter Kujawinski. This is a story about an island where sunrise only comes every 28 years. So when the sun finally sets, the tide rolls out and the entire island freezes over, and no one can survive there without the sun, and because it's so cold. And while all the islanders are getting prepared to leave the island on the only ship that is coming to take them, someone goes missing, and a couple of kids decide to go find their friend because he is at the only hiding spot that they know. And of course, when they get back, the boat may or may not be there, trapping them on this island and seeing if they can survive or somehow escape. The winter theme starts to set in as you read the book. It slowly begins to unfold. They start to get cold, so it's not an immediate chilling setting, but overall this is a little bit of a scary read, and it also has the winter theme that I was going for in this video. The next book is The Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. Did you know I was going to say this book? You knew it, right? The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, the Wardrobe is a middle grade book, so it's shorter, but it's still nonetheless immaculate. This is about a family who ends up encountering this magical world called Narnia within their closet. Well, Narnia has been doused in winter for years and years and years due to the White Witch, and inhabitants of Narnia believe that this family was sent there to save Narnia, to bring it back to its original setting. And all I can say is this book just changed the way I imagine things in life in general, and I just wish this was real. The next book is Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery. So this is a novel that follows the adventures of Anne Shirley. I'm sure you've heard of it before. It's an absolute classic. This book is just about the life and adventures of Anne Shirley, and Anne Shirley is an orphan who, no matter what she's been through, she is just in love with life and finds life and everything around her so fascinating and so beautiful, and she really focuses and fixates on those details. And this also includes all of the seasons, which she goes into in high detail, and it's very unique to see someone appreciate things like this in real life, and it will just give you a whole new perspective and love for the seasons. Anne of Green Gables is a middle grade, so keep that in mind when reading it, but it's still a fantastic book. And the last book on this list is Snow and Rose by Emily Winfield Martin. So Snow and Rose is a retelling of the classic fairy tale Snow White and Rose Red. And it's set in this snowy enchanted forest, which is perfect. The tale follows two young girls, Snow and Rose, who move to a small cottage in the forest with their mother after their father goes missing mysteriously. The woods, however, are enchanted, and although Snow and Rose don't know it, it's up to them to break the spell that haunts them all. This is a middle grade, but it is quite the whimsical adventure. I was hoping to find a bit more variety when it came to these books. I really, tried to weave in some sci-fi, some fantasy, but a lot of them, the majority ended up being a lot of thriller. Hope you guys didn't mind. I love thriller, that's my favorite genre, but I guess you can tell from this video, huh? Well, I guess that is it. I never really know what to say for these outros. I just appreciate you sitting here with me today, keeping me company while I talked about these books. And if you have any specific book recommendations that you would like me to do a video on, I would be very curious to hear what those are. I hope you check some of these books out for yourself, and I'll see you in the next one.